Hello, welcome. So I came across a couple passages that just don't seem to jive together. I'm going through this with Mark, who he was. So if we go to Acts 12:12, and when he considered the same thing, he came to the house of Mary, mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where they gathered together praying. Okay, so if Mary's the mother of John, okay, and go over to Colossians 4:10. Marcus sister, or okay, this is the King James, but if you go to any translation other than King James, um, it refers to Barnabas as cousin to Mark. So let's take a look at this here. So you have one scenario where Barnabas is the brother and sister to Mary. Okay, Mary's the sister to Barnabas, Barnabas the brother to Mary. That would make John, if John Mark's her son, that would make Barnabas his uncle. Okay, that would make Barnabas the uncle of John Mark. But as you saw in Colossians 4:10, it claims that Barnabas was cousin to John Mark. Well, which is it? You can't have it both ways. Either Barnabas was the uncle to John Mark, or his cousin to John Mark. So how do you deal with this? So when I looked, now I read this article, they're just going to go with Mark being cousin to Barnabas, okay, based on the Greek word there, how it's typically used. But if we look at it, okay, it means cousin, okay, that definition. But when I read this here, the term referred to a cousin or a close relative is used to denote a familiar relationship that is more distant than a sibling, but still with an extended family. So, in other words, it's a pretty general term. Okay. In the Greek Roman world, family of kinship were essential to social structure and identity. The concept of nepsios reflects the broader understanding of family, which included not only immediate family members, but also extended relatives. Okay. So it's not limited to cousin then. Okay. Um, what's interesting is Greek, to my understanding, is usually more detailed, more specific than the English. But in this case, in this particular word, it's pretty general. But anyway, that would explain the discrepancy between Acts 12:12, where Mary, the mother of John, who was the sister of Barnabas, could not be um, cousin to Mark. Barnabas being cousin to Mark. It does not work. You can't have it both ways. Barnabas being an uncle to Mark and cousin to Mark. So that seemed. I mean, I'm not. This is not very compelling. I recognize that, but this is surprising. This is a problem, and that's the only way to explain it is that this word is simply referring to a close relative. It's just kinship that's beyond more than a sibling. Okay, but it's more distant than a sibling, but still with an extended family. Okay, then that would work with being uncle and nephew. Um, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on this because this is just um, anyway. Greek prefix meaning up again, related to brother or kinsman. Okay. Okay, so if that's the word origin, then nephew works. Okay, it's the word origin here. Okay. Um, it can work both ways, nephew or cousin. So anyway, you would think that there'd be more discussions on this and getting this figured out in the translations, but it's apparently not. That's a problem that needs to be dealt with. Um, so anyway, I I think the King James is the winner here with this year. Marcus' sister's son to Barnabas, although that is not the literal translation if it means cousin only. But again, based on this, it's not limited to just cousin. It's just a close relative, something that's more distant than a brother or sister, but still within extended family. So, um, yeah. So it appears the King James, when they translated 410, they thought this through, and this seems to make more sense. So this article here, where they're just going to go with cousin, you still have the dilemma of Acts 12. How are you going to deal with that? They don't address that in this article here. Um, Acts 12:12. If you're using the same principle they are, well, then it has to be the mother of John, which would make Barnabas the uncle of John. But they're not addressing that issue. So anyway, when you look at the Greek concordance of 12:12, mother, um, it seems to suggest that it's biological here. It's also used to describe spiritual relationship, but I don't think that's what's going on here. It's just this is not a spiritual relationship. This is obviously biological. There's nothing in here to suggest that this is spiritual. Um, yeah. So how do you tackle this? I like to know. But I'm going to go with this. This is literally Mary, literally the biological mother of John, and this here being the, Barnabas being the uncle to Marcus. That seemed to make the most sense. Again, you cannot have it both ways. When I try to piece this together, you can't. It's either this is true or this is true. Okay. Um, Let's just get rid of this here. So only one of these can be true. So anyway, oh, you thought that the Greek language was specific, right? But obviously not specific enough here. And that's why it's so important to have a language that's very specific when dealing with theology. Um, so anyway, um, yeah. So at this point, that's what I'm going to go with. Uh, Let me know if you agree, disagree, what are your thoughts. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much, and have a great day.